Okay, cool. Right. Okay. So, welcome everybody to ARU Crime Week. We're coming to the end, which is a real shame because it has been really successful, and it's also been really interesting as well. And I understand that some of you that are here now may well have attended some of the previous sessions as well. So, thank you very much for committing time to these sessions. And I'm very pleased to give you the opportunity to hear from an academic that is part of our Criminology and Policing department. Colleen's been here since 1999. She was my academic, so I was a criminology student. And Colleen's time focuses on justice and those who have the diminutive voices in the legal system and responses, particularly for women and girls. But Colleen's talk today is going to be about criminology and what the course is about. And as she's been here for so long, she's going to give you the best possible experience of what the course is like at ARU. And I've got just a couple of housekeeping bits for you just to go over. Today's really about you guys finding out about the course, and in order to do that, it's really important that you ask questions as well. So what I would suggest you do is, if you come up with questions during a talk, because I know that happens, I know that during a talk all of a sudden you think, oh, I'd like to ask that. Please do pop the question in the chat, and Colleen, I'm sure will answer the questions at the end, and we'll also have an allocated bit of time at the end for you to ask Colleen any questions. I'll also, I'm going to be handing over to my colleague Paul towards the end of the session, who will pop in a short feedback survey that would really appreciate you filling out, so that we can get an understanding of if these sessions work and if they're fit for you guys and they do what they need to do. So I believe that's all I need to go over with you guys. So Colleen, I'm going to hand over to you if that's okay, and I'm going to switch off my camera and my mic, but if you need anything, Colleen, just give me a shout and I'll be here till about 20:10.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Rachel.
Very well.
And welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. I've got a presentation which I'm going to switch on in a second, and I'll talk a little bit about the courses that we have to offer in our area of the school. And then I'm going to show you a little video which we're really proud of. It's quite a new video we got made with the help of some students and an animator. And then I'm going to talk through the course. But please, if you have any questions, if you've been to other presentations this week, you'll know you press the little yellow hand, and then hopefully I'll see it. If I don't, because I've got presenter view on, then just put your mic on and shout, and we'll stop and answer questions, because this is your open day and I want you to get the most out of it. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully that will mean that you can see what I need you to see. And I'm going to turn my camera off as well, so that I'm not kind of hogging that. So this is Criminology and Policing. And we're in the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. So Criminology and Policing is the largest part of the school. I think we recruit a lot of students every year. We brought in about 180 students in the first year over the end of September, which was unprecedented. I think that's the largest intake we've had. So we're really pleased about that. So I'm Colleen Moore, if I didn't say that already, and in our part of the school we have several courses: BA Criminology, Criminology with Sociology, Criminology and Policing, and Policing and Criminal Justice, which is based in Chelmsford. And also you can sign up for Psychology with Criminology, but I'm not talking about psychology at all today because that's managed by the psychology school. So just to say that that is an option if you're interested. So I'm just going to put this this animated video on now, which I think will give you a view. And I remember to take out my headphones, so hopefully you'll be able to hear it. If you can't hear anything, then let me know. But here we go. It's very short.
If you imagine that a criminology degree will lead to dramatic situations, catching criminals, or a career finding clues to solve brutal murders, or on the front line investigating international drug gangs, think again.
The reality is much bigger than that, and more important.
In addition to crime investigation, you could gain the knowledge and skills to protect vulnerable people.
Use your technical expertise and adaptability to save people from cybercrime.
Even gain the cultural capital that you'll need to work on behalf of human rights all over the world.
Your course will include compulsory modules such as misrepresentation in the media. We all know our software can make people appear to say anything, but the media can manipulate the truth in more subtle ways. It needs legal expertise to fight this kind of misrepresentation.
A key element of the course is building social capital.
By studying the history of crime and criminology and keeping up with current news and developments, you can build the network group you'll need for criminal justice.
Your course tuition will cover criminal justice in England and Wales and is focused on achieving important targets. But rather than simply accept existing presumptions, you will be encouraged to find your authentic identity.
In years 2 and 3, you will have the freedom to choose from a wide range of optional modules that most align with your interests and personal passions.
These could include negotiating issues regarding sex offending, considering racism from past to present, exploring how investigative psychologists tackle crime.
We hold an annual undergraduate conference, setting us apart from other UK universities.
In recent years, our students have been able to go on field trips to experience real-world areas of criminological interest.
Past students have even spent a semester studying in the United States and applied for funding to help cover the cost.
Our focus is on you, the whole person, and many graduates find important causes, some becoming special constables,
Others work in victim support,
Feminism,
racism, and protesting organisations, with the simple ambition of changing the world.
Criminology is an all-encompassing subject,
from policing to politics,
Sociology to international relations.
violence against women to cybercrime.
You can choose your cause.
Okay, so hopefully that was all clear for you. So that's given you a very brief overview of some of the things that you can expect at criminology and policing in Cambridge and Chelmsford. So I'm just going to take you through a few slides now to talk a bit more about that. But again, if you have any questions, please shout out or raise your hand, and hopefully someone will see. So lots of times when students, prospective students, come and think about studying criminology and policing, their loved ones, especially their mums and dads, ask why would you want to study criminology? What do you get out of it? What kind of options and prospects have you got at the end of that degree? And so we spend a considerable amount of our time making connections, relationships, collaborating with external organisations, charities and statutory organisations. So that you might find that you're interested in research and take your career into government research areas, other government organisations or public services, where there's always, every year there's annual reports that need to be compiled looking at successes and improvements and challenges ahead. So we spend a lot of time focusing on organisations and how they can learn from research, learn from academic, learn from field work on the ground. And so we consider that your employment, your future is one of our priorities. So we start building that in from the moment you get here. You start building your CV, thinking about how to employ skills that you learn at ARU into your future plans. And we're we get a lot of people coming in from organisations to talk about their jobs, how you might tailor your degree in order to get that job if that's the job that you're interested in, and so on. And as was mentioned in the little clip, you can study abroad. I think, as far as I'm aware, that's still going ahead in this new climate. Might be a couple more hoops to jump through, but we have relationships with a university called Marshall in West Virginia and another one in South Carolina. So, and some of those students that have gone on those study abroad programs have said they were life-changing, working with other people that from another side of the same coin, different system, same goals. Okay, so why study with us at ARU? We've been ranked guides for criminology across the country. Criminology and policing is a very popular subject. They spring up every year as another course, and they seem to be continuing in that vein in popularity. So criminology is a multidisciplinary topic. It's not really a topic. It can be anything you want it to be. So you might think you want to look at punishment, you might want to look at systems like the criminal justice process, or you might want to look at behaviour from a psychological perspective or a sociological one. You might think, you know, religion is an important way to understand the framework if you're thinking about something like terrorism, or you might think finance and law if you're trying to understand why so many people break laws. Then maybe we have to look at why we have so many laws, and so on. So there's a lot of questions in criminology and policing. Why do we do what we do, and why do we respond as we do? We use a lot of real life examples. We look at every module is up to date with cutting edge research, and also as much as we can be now that most of our teaching is online, our sessions are as interactive. So we use a lot of tools that you can all play with from wherever your screen is, your phone or your computer in your home, or even on the bus in some instances. So the studying in 2020 and 2021 seems to be a very different one than the traditional coming into the classroom and sitting and being lectured to. We also are developing a criminology and policing journal. We have a lot of social media groups, and our student reps manage a lot of that activity as well. So again, it's kind of preparing you to be dealing with the media, not just reading it, but how can the media be manipulated and to your advantage or disadvantage, and so on. We have lots of regular events. We're not going on field trips this year for obvious reasons, but we have been still continuing with many guest lectures who come and talk. Now online is even easier for access because they don't have to get up really early and travel miles across the country. So we've included a range of guest lecturers from various walks of life. I had one this week from the police, a guy called Nick Skipworth, who talks about his trying to police and be a protection for women who may or may not have been trafficked, working in the sex industry, or possibly being sexually exploited. And so he talked about, you know, the kind of policing mechanisms that they have to try and make people's lives better. We also have a conference every year. I'll talk a bit more about that later on. This year, because everything is online, we are going to, we have even bigger plans with our conference. So normally it's third years presenting their dissertation findings in streamed class, so with real classrooms. And now we're looking to do that online. And we're thinking it might be quite a nice thing to join up with some other universities around the world as well. So my colleague Anna just went to a 24-hour conference, and it was literally running for 24 hours non-stop because it was a world conference. So kind of, you know, taking advantage of these unprecedented times, so people in Peru can be presenting while you're having a little nap, and so on and so on. So using opportunities to our advantage is what we like to do. And we include lots of practical opportunities. While if you did want, you know, if you know already when you start your degree that you'd like a career in the police or in probation or something within the criminal justice system, then we've got a lot of practical opportunities and skill sets for you to develop while you're here. So criminology and policing is basically anything you want it to be, as I suggested. It's about the process of criminal justice. It's about when it goes wrong, when there are miscarriages of justice. It's about the media and media misrepresentation. It's theories. Why do people commit crimes? Why don't they? Why do we arm our military? Why don't we arm our police? Child abuse and all the kind of other kinds of violence that we might wonder when we read newspaper articles, how could somebody do that? We look at investigative psychology, we look at war, security, human rights, and then we incorporate in most of our modules kind of ethical problems. We want you to think about what you're reading, not just read it and regurgitate it. We want you to be curious so that when you leave, you can actually change the world. So criminology and policing is anything you want it to be. You might have experience yourself of victimization. You might have experience yourself of being criminals and breaking the law. Maybe you stole chewing gum when you were children, or and maybe you didn't get caught. So we think about, what does that mean? You know, if people, quite often young people, test the waters and do things that they may not be that proud of, or want anyone to know about. But if you don't get caught, how does that shape your life compared to someone who does? You know, but getting caught can mean the difference, not necessarily such a good future if you're sent to prison. And we know that if you're a young person, especially a young man, being sent to prison before you're 20 is the most likely thing to cause you to commit more crime. And yet we send young people to prison. So we have discussions about things like that. And I think what we find is that everyone is very passionate and enthusiastic about the topics because they're very current. You know, reading and writing about the news is you know, a hot topic, and there's always something new to think about. So we have a range of staff. I'm just going to pop these up here. I'm not going to call them all out, but you get a kind of view of the prevalence and scale of our colleagues here. And I think there's a few that who are part-time lecturers that I haven't included on here because I just couldn't fit any more. But we have a growing team, and we're very proud of, you know, the diverse nature of everybody's interests. So a lot of criminology courses around the country sit within sociology or law or psychology, and the lecturers may be, you know, first and foremost a sociologist, and then talk about a kind of criminal or deviant aspect of that. But we're very proud at Anglia Ruskin. We are a criminology and policing area in our school, and everyone is devoted to criminology and policing. So we don't have to. We have a sociology department, but we're separate. And sometimes, if you want to, you could choose a sociology module. But we can give you a whole diet of just criminology and policing. So I've just got some comments here for you to have a look at from previous students. So the National Student Survey is a survey that all third years are questioned on towards the end of their degree. So I think it starts in the middle of January this year and ends in May or maybe April. And all the third year students across the country answer lots of questions about their experiences. So these are some of the things that students have said about their studies with us, and from 2019. So we're very proud that our students enjoy their course as well. They can see not just, you know, that they're learning the basics of criminology and policing, they're learning a whole range of other things that it give them the skills to go for that job interview. You know, social sciences are about questioning just as much as about answering problems in society. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, but that's a kind of background then about criminology. And I just want to talk a little bit about the program itself and how they progress. So the modules that I'm going to present to you aren't all available in all the degrees, so they're a kind of selection. So if you're just doing single honours criminology or criminology and policing or criminology and sociology, your diet might be slightly different, obviously, and I'm not including sociology or psychology modules in this presentation. So you're looking at everything from a range of perspectives: theoretical, so you want to explain something; practical, you might work out some problems, that real life problems. And in fact, we're just this. I think next week we're using some of our students to help the police in Cambridgeshire deal with what they call ethical dilemmas. So the police they ask their colleagues in the police to put forward ideas about what might be an ethical dilemma for police this year. So one of them I think that they're talking about is, should police in England take the knee? Very topical this year in the whole the world's kind of mobilisation of Black Lives Matter and so on. And some police officers took the knee and some didn't. And so that's one of their ethical dilemmas. They're asking our students and other students and young people what they think, so that we have a debate, and then we go back with the police and help them with their justification of however they decide to respond to that problem of where the police should take the knee. So, you know, it's a way of getting involved and also being useful. So that's a good thing. So yes, all kinds of human behaviour. This picture here is from the graduation, one of the graduations when we had them in the Guildhall. I think we're moving to another place sometime when we have the next graduation. But that's a happy picture of students and their families just being given their degrees. So it's a full-time degree, lasts 3 years. We are about to include a sandwich year, which means it would last 4 years, and with our help, you would find a place of work to go and work in for a year in the middle of your degree, hence the name sandwich. So a slice of working in the middle of your studying. It's over 3 semesters, but as an undergraduate student, you really wouldn't be doing very much in the 3rd trimester over the summer. So it's basically presented from September to December and then January to April. Okay, hopefully that wasn't somebody asking me a question because I can't see questions. I can only see my screen. So we have a modular system, which is quite standard for most universities. Each module is worth either 15 or 30 and they accumulate over the years. And normally you choose 60 credits a semester, and that would be 3 or 4 modules. And modules are taught at the moment online primarily. And we have other activities in our face-to-face sessions, which I can talk about if you're interested in a bit. And in the olden days, when we did things in the classroom, it would normally be a lecture and then you'd be broken up into different seminar groups, smaller groups. So lectures might have 150 students in or 60 students, and then a seminar might have 20, 25 students. So it's much more focused environment for you to talk about some of the problems and come up with some solutions. At the moment, we haven't really developed having lots of seminars one after the other online, but we do have breakout rooms because we don't actually need physical classrooms, so students can use them and come in and out of the breakout room while we're having discussions in our lectures. So there's a slightly different way of using the tools. So the kind of modules that you might choose or have in your diet at Anglia Ruskin here. So we start the first year, the level 4, is very much a foundation. Everything we're talking about, we think some of you may have done those things if you did sociology or history or law at A level, but some may not. So we kind of start you all on the same level playing field, looking at the news, understanding how media is distorted and sometimes presented in a way that has its own kind of political agenda. We also provide, in that module, Crime News and Criminology, half of it is about study skills. So we're also giving you the skills that you need to write essays and reference and so on. History of crime, skills for criminal justice is the module I mentioned where you would be developing your CV, thinking about your career path. And if you're studying policing, then Introduction to Policing. They're all available in Try 2 and in Try 1. And in Try 2, you have 2 modules depending on your course. Criminal justice system is for everyone. That's what it says, looking at those different components, the police, the probation service, prisons, etc., the courts. And then media, society and crime, or policing ethics, depending if you're single honours, sociology, or policing students. So we think about newsworthiness. That's a very important topic that we'd start off with. So just to give an example, we might have a discussion about women being the victims of male violence, and most people are familiar with the case of Steve Wright and the 5 victims that he killed in 2006. The reason that this kind of popped up again on the 10th anniversary, so it kind of became a bit more of a discussion point because anniversaries of things good and bad seem to be very media savvy, and this weekend actually we'll see there's another anniversary coming up. Anyway, Steve Wright killed these 5 women in Suffolk, and that was the story. It was an international story. It's unusual for men to kill lots of women. Normally they kill just 1 or possibly 2, so when it's several, it becomes news. And we focus on the perpetrator a lot in the news. Steve Wright, did he do it? He still denies that he was the perpetrator, although he's been convicted, and it's unlikely he'll ever be released from prison, especially while he's denying that he did kill them. But we focus on those kind of unusual cases. But what is less likely to be focused on is that in that same period, that 6-week period, about 8 to 10 women will have been killed by their partner or ex-partner. And the media chooses very rarely to focus on that. So we're much more likely to be interested in a very unusual case of one man killing 5 and hardly notice that 8 or 10 men kill 8 or 10 women over the same period of time. This is a snapshot. The photo underneath is of the 1 year. It was a Guardian, I think, Observer special, where it was 1 year of all the women who'd been killed by their partner or ex-partner. Very little played out in the media, unless there's another component to that story that makes it newsworthy, like maybe she was having an affair or he was a rich banker or something like that. So what we like to do is diminish the Steve Wrights of the world and think about all of the other men and husbands and ex-husbands who might be quite dangerous to women as well. You know, Steve Wright, whilst dangerous, is unusual, and we focus on more usual kinds of violence. So we would have a theme running through is why do we question certain things? Why do we focus on certain things? Why do we like to other groups? We like to present some groups as more dangerous than others, whilst ignoring the ones that are right under our noses, which it can be propagated by the media, promoting stories through fear and stranger danger and all those things. Okay, so we might, we will look at recent news stories as well and consider a story from various different sources. So we might choose a story from one newspaper and compare it to how it's presented in another newspaper, really trying to read the news and understand, well, what's the agenda? They tell us, newspapers tell us that they print stories that the public want, but how do we know that? What they don't ask us, they just print them and we read them. So in level 5 or the second year, we have more choice. So the modules you have in the first year, you've just given them. In the second year, you can choose trials and errors is the compulsory component, but you can look at punishment, violence. We have a module which we're very proud of called Making a Difference. And in that one, you can start thinking about research and how you develop your research skills and methodology approaches and apply them to an area that really you might be able to change the world in. How could you make a difference? So thinking about protests, activism, you might think about ethics at work or preparing for work. Or advocacy or many other things we've got in that. It's a kind of envelope of a variety of different skill sets that you can learn and then apply in a research setting. Cybercrime and policing, intoxicants and intoxication, about drugs and alcohol and prohibition. I mean, we're living under a kind of prohibition kind of climate at the moment, so very current and topical. Security and globalization and so on. And then more, if you want me to develop any of these, I'm happy to, but I think it's enough information if I just give you lists, and then you can see this is the kind of perspectives that our modules take, and we can tease them out if you're interested in them. So if you're doing criminology and policing or policing and criminal justice, then obviously a lot of your modules will be much more police-based or criminal justice-based. So criminology is more theoretical, thinking about the whys and the hows as well. And the policing side is more practical, learning policing skills and thinking about how police might do their jobs better and so on. You can also do a module on learning from work experience if you have, we can't find placements for all of our students, but if you have contacts, then we can help you develop them. So we have questions that might pop up. I don't know if any of you know what the answer is to this question, how many homicides there were in 2019 in England and Wales. We tend to think that there are a lot, according to our media. It tells us all the time that we live in a dangerous society. Has anybody got any clue about what they think the answer to the question is? If you dare unmic and say numbers.
Colleen, we're very cruel. It's Paul. We're very cruel. We don't let them unmic. They're consigned to writing in the chat. They could write a number in the chat if they want to. Oh, someone said 100.
100 homicides. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone
Shall we
got
play
higher
like
or
The
lower?
Price is Right and go higher or lower? It's not The Price is Right.
Higher or lower?
Who's going higher than that? 114 we have now.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to give you the answer. So you might be even more surprised then. 671 homicides in that 1 year. They go from March to March, so that kind of incorporates seasonal, Christmas, and things like that. But so you thought lower than 671. 671 is actually lower than many years. It had been creeping up and up and up. But it was 5% lower than the year before. So we had a plateau, and it's come down. So we might spend a whole lecture just thinking about homicides, because homicide is a really good way of measuring violence in a country, because we can't. It's more difficult to measure just violence because different countries record them differently, different access to hospital data, and so on and so on. But most countries record as accurately as they can homicides. So it's a measure of the violence in a climate or a country. So we think about that, and we think about the laws around homicide and why men might kill each other. So we think about male confrontational violence. Men tend to kill men more than they kill women, and they kill women more than women kill women. So men seem to be the culprits of most homicides, and males are more likely to be victims of male homicide, but females are next. And the contexts are very different. So as we'll see, we'll think about what kind of methods they might use, and what kind of age groups, maybe in different countries the peak is different, and so on. So lots of statistics, and there are some lovely reports that come out every few years. Well, for the government reports, they'd be every year, but World Health Organization and other international organizations publish reports usually every 4 years, so you can update and compare trends over time and so on. So we might think about what's the difference between men killing men and men killing women. Well, as I mentioned earlier, if you're a woman killed by a man, it's most likely that he's supposed to have cared for you, being your husband or father or so. So most women who are killed know their killer, and more men don't know their killer. So the contexts are different: strangers, getting into fights outside, rage, weather, maybe a component of that, countries where people are more likely to be outside, and so on. So we might look at intimate partner or family related homicides and think about the different scales of that. So you can see here who's more likely to be the victim of intimate partner homicide or family homicide is females, and males are more likely to be victims of other kinds of homicide. So there's endless things to consider when we're thinking about those topics. So violence is very much a theme through the second year. In both trimesters, there's a core module that we would recommend you take on violence, how it's theorized, and then how it plays out in society, how we might control it or respond to it. So in the third year, you do a major project. The subjects that you can choose then are much more focused. So again, your second year is where we want you to develop your writing skills, your researching skills, and so on and so on. But by the third year, we think you've found what your favorite method is, or your best research approach, or you might choose, so maybe let's say it's gender, you might choose lots of essay questions throughout your third year that let you explore and expand your understanding of gender or race or youth crime, or so you can apply your particular area. Or policing, you might think, I'm interested in all of these things, but how are they policed, and so on. So these are some of the modules that we have in the third year, as you can see, much more focused and nuanced. And by this time, you will have thought carefully about what your major project topic is, and you'll be given a supervisor, an appropriate supervisor for that. These are some of the policing options or sociology options that you can take in the 3rd year. So as I said, much more focused. And we're constantly developing our modules. Every year we think we have our module evaluations. We have good relationships with all our students, and when students say we want it to be like that, can you change this? Then we try to listen and amend our assessments to make them as up to date as possible. So we're using blogs much more now, and thinking about the use of the internet, and especially for policing students need to understand the internet, because especially this year the opportunities for crime seem to have moved online with the rest of the world. Our assessments comprise mostly essays. We don't have any exams, maybe a few class tests, but they would only form a small proportion of the assessment. You get your assignment details at the beginning of every trimester, so you can work on them from the outset. And we think that the things that that we might ask you to do will also be useful for you in the future. So looking at policies and analysing the changes of policies in organisations, how case studies might help our understanding of things as well. And we have, if things go back to how they were, or some new version of them, we do like to put on other extracurricular activities. So I mentioned we have lots of guest speakers, and we've been having them online. We've had panel meetings online, where we have people from different parts of the country answering questions. In the past, we've put on outdoor sessions. So we had a couple of forensic crime scene. What were they? You had to kind of find. It was a clue thing. There was clues and a mannequin dead person, not a real dead person, out in the fenlands, and the police and forensic teams came along, and everybody had to find certain kinds of pieces of evidence. I think it was. I didn't go to that day, but I think those days it was quite successful. We host things. We've had the Sex Workers Opera, which was a really interesting opera, and the most of the performers were sex workers, and it was a kind of political and meant to be quite funny pantomime show questioning the law around prostitution, which was really, really good fun. We've hosted a game show called How to Be Good in Bed, which is hosted by the Consent Collective, who work with universities around issues to do with sexual misconduct. We've gone to prisons. We've come back again. They haven't left us in there. One of the modules, when courts were somewhere that we could also visit, includes attending a bit of a trial and writing about that. And we'll be building that in. We've built that into in a slightly different way in the trimester to come. So students still get that kind of experience, but maybe not in a real courtroom at the moment. And trips abroad. I think we are going to be planning a trip abroad in the next academic year. And so we've gone to different places: Amsterdam, Estonia, Krakow, and Auschwitz in Poland, Iceland, the States, Spain, Hungary, and many other countries. So we really enjoy not only the cultural experience, but the opportunities for students to get to know each other in a slightly different way when you go on. It's cross levels 4 to 7, and so it's a really nice way for students to make relationships, and some of those have lasted forever. Since they've gone. So I'm still in touch with a lot of students and particularly those students that came on trips, because we got to know them a bit better. So that's a good thing. We have a lot of research opportunities. In fact, I just read 2 research proposals that are going in today from 2 of my colleagues. And so they're looking at gang county lines and looking at young people's decision-making processes for committing crimes and how their moral compass may or may not influence them. And so when my colleagues are working on a research project, there are opportunities for students to work with them. So they build into their research proposals enough money to pay someone as a student associate researcher with them. So that's a good thing. And we have a lot of contacts with the police locally in Cambridge and Chelmsford. We have PEER, the Policing Institute for the Eastern Region, PEER, is very influential now and working on many projects to do with all kinds of policing So, making policing more effective in domestic abuse cases, sexual violence, looking at the sex offenders register, and so on and so on. So we work very closely with peer as well. So our contacts are always growing. Work with rape crisis, Cambridge County and City Councils, and much more. We have a prize for the best criminology dissertation called the Philip Lotes Prize. Philip was one of our students, and he sadly was killed in a motorcycle accident in Thailand a couple of years ago. And he, with the help of his family, we've put together a prize. So it's and we'll talk about Philip, and you'd get to know him. And actually, Lauren, who would have been here today, was in the same year group as Philip, so she knew him very, very well. So we keep him alive in our memories, and his spirit, which was magnetic, stays in our criminology programme. We have a conference every year, which I think I mentioned, and this year we're hoping it will be bigger than ever. These are some of the people that we've had as our keynote speakers over the years. And so it's a proper conference where you're streaming your work in themed groups. So you'll be talking about, if your dissertation's on prisons, you'll be in a group that's talking about prisons. If it's about policing, it will be in that group, and so on. And this year, as it's online, we'll be hoping to also invite students' families and friends, because we don't have to have the restrictions of a room anymore. So families and friends can proudly listen to their loved ones presenting on their dissertation topics. Okay, that was a whistle stop of all the things in criminology and policing. So now I think it would be, if you've got any questions. So Paul, you said they're not allowed to unmic, but they can type questions. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. And thanks for that presentation. It's always good for me to find out more about courses at ARU as well. One question that we have, and you have sort of covered it through the presentation, that's why I didn't sort of stop you mid-flow, was questions about the true differences between a criminology degree and the criminology and policing degree.
Okay, that's a good question. So it just means that so if you're doing criminology degree, you can choose some of the policing modules, but obviously universities insist that all courses make some of their modules compulsory. So that means your choice is more limited if you're studying two subjects, because both subjects have compulsory modules. So the difference is that if you're doing criminology and policing, you're going to be studying more compulsory modules about policing and less about the other things, I suppose, which we might have included in that diet, that are more about theoretical understandings of things. But if you're studying single honours criminology, then you can still do policing modules. You just don't have to do all of those different policing modules. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense.
Hopefully it does. I'm sure it does. Next question is actually yes, thank you. So Colleen, well done. The next question, which was just up on my screen, and then I've just deleted it. That's why I'm never one of these presenters.
Is this the one about
can you see it? Do you need a background in criminology to do it at degree level?
Absolutely not. No, you just need to be really interested in everything to do with criminology and policing. And I mean, I think from my perspective, and as Rachel said, or one of you said earlier, I've been here for a long time now. And the thing that I see every year is that students do really well in their degrees because they love it. They love the topic. And I'm always learning, for 20 odd years, I learn new things. And that's what makes it so wonderful, because it's always changing. So no, you don't need a background. You just need to be curious and passionate about understanding things. And you will know some of the things, because the media is always talking about crime and policing, and and whether it's we need to be terrified in our shoes or fighting for our rights. And there's all kinds of things that we already know. We're just going to guide you, and that's it. So yeah, we start from the very beginning, because it's a very good place to start.
Do I need to admit that I think that was a near enough quote to Sound of Music? Then actually move on. The question again about career options. If you study criminology, what could the future hold?
Yeah, so many things. A lot of our students want to stay. So this year, I think more than ever, our third years decided to stay with us and do a master's in criminology or international relations or sociology. And then, so that gives them a bit more of an edge, I suppose, and also nuance into what they're interested in. So further study is what we love that, and maybe some staying for PhDs. We've got quite a few PhD students now too. Our Vice Chancellor, I think, is just about to announce some scholarships, which I'm quite excited about. And then so going into, I mentioned one of the things when I was studying, actually, one of the things that stayed with me was a woman came to talk to us, and it can be as random as someone coming to talk. And she worked for the civil service, and she said that one of her proudest things that she'd ever done was she was working on the team that decided to put little bobbly bits in the pavement on the side of the pavement when people who are visually impaired shouldn't step off the pavement or get hit by a car or a train. And that's always struck me as what a wonderful thing. And so I applied for a job in the civil service because of that. And I applied for the job at ARU at the same time, and I got both of them. I chose to stay at ARU, but what the point is that lots of things will happen while you're studying, which will inspire you to think about a career that you'd never even imagined before. So there are government work, there's research work, working with young people. We work quite closely with Romsey Mill, which is a local organisation that works with kind of disillusioned youngsters that need a bit of a prop and something to do and people to talk to. So we work very closely with them. You might find, that's what you want to do. Policing, prisons, probation, they're the kind of obvious ones, but it's endless. Maybe being a primary school teacher, because a lot of students actually say, I want to work with them from the very beginning so that I can shape their lives in a better way. So yeah, endless.
Thanks, Colleen. A couple more questions have come in. What sort of advice would you give to someone to how to prepare to study a criminology degree? So say they're on, they've just gone through the UCAS process, made their application and got an offer. What would you say they should do?
That's a really good question. Just watch the news, listen to the news, listen to different aspects of the news as well. So having it come on in the morning instead of the music radio, so that you're thinking about what they're talking about, looking at different news outlets and making contrasts, trying to understand what the motives are for certain government decisions. In our face-to-face sessions that we've been having this trimester, one of my colleagues, Amy, made a whole series of COVID-related discussions, because actually COVID is really topical in terms of criminology and policing. Now it's illegal to go to the pub. I mean, who would have thought last year that would be a thing? And your rights, your social mobility has, we just did what we were told, just like that. So thinking about social control issues, everyone has to wear a mask in a shop. Everyone wears a mask in a shop. So that criminology is everything. Because there's always something. So thinking about issues to do with social control, if we were told to do things that we couldn't see the point of, we're much less likely to do them. But suddenly this year, people could see the point of obeying a rule. So yeah, the news, but think about under the news. What's the motive for that news story? What do they want you to think or not think?
Well, I'm still in shock about the amount of homicides there were in 2019.
Really?
Well, yeah, I think so. Another question. This is we need to go to your postgraduate expertise now. Is a question sort of just asking about what's the benefits of doing further studies beyond sort of undergraduate level?
Well, I mean, that's one of the flaws, the drawbacks of having a really popular course. Criminology and Policing are really popular across the country. So like psychology or law, actually, they're also, because they're quite applied subjects, when you graduate, you're going to be competing with thousands of other students who graduate with a good 2-1 or a first. And so you need to have an edge. So it doesn't have to be a master's. What we also promote is, maybe joining a voluntary organisation, developing your skill sets so that when you have that job interview, you're not just a graduate with a 2-1. You've got all these other ways of applying your learning as well, or becoming a special constable if you want to go into the police, just demonstrating commitment and things like that. So an MA is another, I can't think of the analogy now, a good card in your pack. That's really weak and sad. But
string to the
bow, that's it.
Go.
You know, and also if you're passionate about a subject, when you've done a master's, you'll know more about it, so you're more expert, you know, so that's obviously going to look good for your future employers.
Yeah. Another sort of might be a final question, but obviously if there are others, please put them in. You deal with hard-hitting topics, so what support is there for students?
That's also a really good question. Yeah, thank you, Beth. So yes, well, we have, I teach the module on, it's called Negotiating Sex and Gender now. It's about sexual violence and laws around prostitution and so on. We also have a couple of modules on violence that I mentioned. And yes, there are some things that, you've a really good question, and I want to kind of try and incorporate everything in there. So what we've learned is that lots of students come to study criminology or psychology or law, actually, because of their own experiences in life. So they want to get answers to things they may or may not understand very well. And so we know that that's a draw. So for a lot of people, those things that we talk about aren't new, and they're upsetting for different reasons. So we have to try and balance, you know, that with other students who might really have come to learn about policing, and they didn't even imagine that there was going to be a lot of other things that we raise. So we try and address that in the sessions, and we give you warnings if you're not interested in learning about a particular thing, so you can not come to that. And since online, we record everything as well. So, you know, you can look at the script. The recording has written words too, so you can scan things and see if there's something in there I don't really want. And obviously there are lecture notes on top. So we have a wonderful counselling service at Anglia Ruskin, and they're always available now online or on the phone, and you can set up appointments, emergency appointments if necessary, and then they have you can have a kind of suite of appointments after that. We have student services, wonderful student services who understand that lots of students are coming with all kinds of other pressures in life, not just things we're bringing up in the classroom, but, you know, your own lives. And so we have measures in place if you need to get longer time to write your assignments, or you need some support around finances and things like that. So yeah, I think one of the things we're all very pleased about at ARU is we have very good support network, and it's getting better. I'm also a sexual violence liaison officer at ARU, which means that that we've kind of set aside special people who you might want advice around sexual misconduct issues and so on. So there's all kinds of layers of support.
Thank you. Any final questions? I'm just going to post the evaluation form in the chat once again. To all the students who've joined us today, thank you. I hope you found it informative. I'm sure you have. I would also put a little plug out for the open day, which is on Saturday, that you could find out more about the wider university as well, and things like support from student services and money advice and those sort of areas. We are very sorry that we can't get you to wander around the campus at this stage, but I'm sure in time with a vaccine we'll be able to do it. But yes, so to those of you who are here, if you could just, I've been told that it's a very short form. It'll only take a minute to complete. But also, Colleen, I'd like to say thank you for you as well, for your time. I know you're incredibly busy. But also,
it's lovely. This is, I mean, we love our students. We love getting to meet our students. So no, it's all good. And
I think it's a testament to Colleen that the fact that Rachel, who started this talk off today, was one of Colleen's students who now still works at ARU. And Lauren,
Rachel, yeah. And Lauren, yeah, we're getting a whole suite. Our timetabler, Savannah, like, I mean, I guess if you want to know what do criminology students do, some of them don't go, they love it. So yeah, I've got Rachel and Lauren in this area, and Savannah's in timetabling. And actually, this is funny. There was a bulletin. We have a magazine that comes out weekly, I think, and there was a notice in there that one of our colleagues had been here for 25 years, and she did criminal. She just wanted to add. She was working in different areas at ARU, but then she came and did criminology whilst being a staff member, and then kind of went back to her staff. So that was, wow, 25 years, but still a graduate of criminology.
There we go. So it is a family thing. And I would also put a little plug in for our student ambassador scheme as well. Lots of students work for us as a school and college engagement team. And we have had many very successful students from criminology as well, and policing and sociology. Cool.
And the student rep, so we really want our student, we try and get them involved as well. So it's good preparation again for, you know, that next part of your lives. If you start getting involved in the way structures work, like as a student rep, then that's, you know, always good for you.
All good. Brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Yes, it's a shame they can't talk, isn't it? But
I don't like that. Why can't they talk? I mean,
I think it's there were us, but with other universities where people could talk if they said the wrong thing.
But you see, that's what we don't like, censorship in criminology, and I would say that's censorship. That's what we've just been watching on Twitter and Facebook, isn't it? In the president election, you know, the president of the United States is being censored. I mean, you wouldn't have imagined, like, the going to the pub is illegal, and so is what the president says.
It's a mad world.
It really is, but we talk about all those things. It's what makes it so interesting.
Very much so, very much so. And I think that's a great way to end an interesting talk. So thanks to the students who came in today. Thanks for the questions. If you have other questions, you can go to anglia.ac.uk and also answers at, this is the email address, answers@aru.ac.uk, and drop it in. Or, and I would recommend this, come back on Saturday, the open day, and have an opportunity to find out more. Okay.
Isn't there? There's another talk though, isn't there today? Or am I imagining?
I think there's. Oh yeah, brilliant. No, there's a student life one. Yes, about 2 o'clock. So if you've been given the link to this one, you can go in. I believe the links are on there as well. And yeah, you can get a student perspective as well. A couple of students. I think it's Kieran and Ellie, maybe.
This afternoon. Yeah, Paul. Ellie will be talking at 2 o'clock, and I'll be hosting that one.
Nice.
Rachel is back.
I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. Brilliant.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. Take care and good luck with your studies and applications to university. And even if that means it ends, I'm going to do the wave thing.
Yeah, bye and stop recording. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good point.